Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. E Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we will be studying chapter 8, text 21. Kindly recite in unison the Sanskrit and the translations. Chapter 8, text 21. Avyakto-kshara ityuktas tam ahu paramam gatim yam prapya na nivartante taddama paramam mama. Translation. That supreme abode is called unmanifested and infallible, and it is the supreme destination. When one goes there, he never comes back. That is my supreme abode. We may have read that one last night, so we'll start from 22. Purusha saparapartha bhaktyalabhyastvananaya yasantasastani bhutani yena sarvam idam tatam. Translation in unison. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is greater than all, is attainable by unalloyed devotion. Although he is present in his abode, he is all-pervading, and everything is situated within him. Text 23. Yatra kale tvanavritim avritim jaiva yoginaha prayata tantitam kalam vakshyami bharatarshava. Translation. O best of the Bharatas, I shall now explain to you the different times at which, passing away from this world, one does or does not come back. Text 24. Agnir jyotirdaha shukla shanmasa uttarayanam tatra prayata gachanti brahma vido janaha. Translation. Those who know the Supreme Brahman pass away from the world during the influence of the fiery god, in the light, at an auspicious moment, during the fortnight of the moon, and the 6 months when the sun travels in the north. Text 25. Dumo ratristata Krishna shanmasa dakshinayanam tatra chandramasam yotir yogi prapya nivartate. Translation. The mystic who passes away from this world during the smoke, the night, the moonlight fortnight, or in the 6 months when the sun passes to the south, or who reaches the moon planet, again comes back. Text 26. Shukla Krishna gati yete jagata shashvate mate ekayyayatyana vritim anyaya vartate punaha. Translation. According to the Vedas, there are 2 ways of passing from this world, one in light and one in darkness. When one passes in light, he does not come back. But when one passes in darkness, he returns. Text 27. Naite stri partha janan yogi muyati kashchana masmat tasdarveshu kaleshu yoga yukto bhavarjuna. Translation. The devotees who know these two paths, O Arjuna, are never bewildered. Therefore, be always fixed in devotion. Text 28. Vedeshu yagyeshu tapashu chaiva daneshu yat punya palam prasdishtam atyeti tatsarvamidam pravidha yogi param sthanam upaiti chadyam. Translation. A person who accepts the path of devotional service is not bereft of the results derived from studying the Vedas, performing austere sacrifices, giving charity, or pursuing philosophical and fruitive activities. At the end, he reaches the supreme abode. Chapter 9, entitled The Most Confidential Knowledge, text 1. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha idam tu te guyatamam bravakshyam yadusuyave jnanam vijnanam sahitam yajgyatva mokshase shubhat. Translation. The Supreme Lord said, My dear Arjuna, because you are never envious of me, I shall impart to you this most secret wisdom, knowing which you shall be relieved of the miseries of material existence. Chapter 9, text 2. Raja vidya raja guyam pavitram idham uttamam pratyaksha vagamam dharmyam susukham kartum avyayam. Translation. This knowledge is the king of education, the most secret of all secrets. It is the purest knowledge, and because it gives direct perception of the self by realization, it is the perfection of religion. It is everlasting, and it is joyfully performed. Okay? Text 3. Ashratadhana purusha dharma yasya parantapa aprapya mam nivartante mrityu samsara vartmani. Translation. Those who are not faithful on the path of devotional service cannot attain me, O conqueror of foes, but return to birth and death in this material world. And text number 4, the final verse. Maya tatam idam sarvam jagadavyakta murtina matstani sarva bhutani nachaham teshvavastitaha. Translation. By me, in my unmanifested form, this entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. Thank you. So now let us return to chapter 8, text 22. Translation. This is page number 415. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is greater than all, is attainable by unalloyed devotion. Although he is present in his abode, he is all-pervading, and everything is situated within him. Purport. It is here clearly stated that the supreme destination from which there is no return is the abode of Krishna, the Supreme Person. The Brahma Samhita describes this supreme abode as Ananda Chinmaya Rasa, a place where everything is full of spiritual bliss. Whatever variegatedness is manifest there is all of the quality of spiritual bliss. There is nothing material. All variegatedness is expanded as the spiritual expansion of the Supreme Godhead Himself. For the manifestation there is totally of the spiritual energy, as explained in chapter 7. As far as this material world is concerned, although the Lord is always in His supreme abode, He is nonetheless all-pervading by his material energy. So, by his spiritual and material energies, he is present everywhere, both in the material and in the spiritual universes. Yasyan tasthani means that everything is sustained by him, whether it be spiritual or material energy. It is clearly stated here that only by bhakti or devotional service can one enter into the Vaikuntha spiritual planetary system. In all the Vaikunthas, there is only one Supreme Godhead, Krishna, who has expanded himself into millions and millions of plenary expansions. These plenary expansions are four-armed, and they preside over the innumerable spiritual planets. They are known by a variety of names: Purushottama, Trivikrama, Keshava, Madhava, Aniruddha, Rishikesha, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, Padmanabha, etc. These, I skipped a line. Sridhara, Vasudeva, Damodara, Janardana, Narayana, Vamana, Padmanabha, Padmanabha, etc. Pardon me. These plenary expansions are likened unto the leaves of a tree, and the main tree is likened to Krishna. Krishna, dwelling in Goloka Vrindavan, his supreme abode, systematically conducts all affairs of both universes, material and spiritual, without a flaw by power of his all-pervasiveness. There's a verse which states that the Lord's energies, he has multifarious energies, and by these energies, Shaktir Vividhaya Shruyate, that he is actually conducting all the affairs simply by his will. As soon as he desires something, it's a reality. This is the difference between the living entities who are very minute and the Lord, that he is actually the source of all persons and all energies, which are described in the 7th chapter as two different categories primarily. There is the external energy or separated material energies, which include earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. Altogether, these 8 comprise Krishna's separated material energies. And then the next text, which is 7.5, states, Aparayamitas tvanyam Prakritim vidime param. Prakriti means energy, but he has two types. He has the pada. Pada means paramount or spiritual, the top. And apada is inferior, which refers to the material energy. Of course, actually, both are actually coming from the Lord, who's completely spiritual. So actually, for the pure devotee, or for one in knowledge, there is nothing material actually, because they understand that everything is coming from the Lord. That's confirmed in the 10th chapter, text number 8, where Krishna states that he's the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything is actually emanating from him. So he says that one who knows this, though, they worship me with all their hearts. So this is why getting knowledge of Krishna's supreme position, hearing that again and again and again and again and again from the bona fide acharyas in disciplic succession is so important. Because when we hear from them such bona fide sources of Vedic knowledge, people who know Krishna, they can tell us who is Krishna. Just like if we have a friend and we don't know anything about, like a friend of a friend, right? I don't know anything about that person, but my friend says, you'll really like them. Well, tell me about the person. Like that. So we hear from Krishna's representatives, or we hear from Krishna's associates, we hear from Krishna's entourage, those persons who have been given entrance into this confidential knowledge by dint of their submissive service attitude, they can impart that to us. That's described in the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. That if we want transcendental knowledge, we have to approach somebody who has it. That's the principle of disciplic succession in action. That we have to receive this knowledge from somebody who has it. Jnaninas tattva darshina. Somebody who has seen the truth, that person can initiate you into the truth too. And this is why we all take shelter daily of this transcendental knowledge, Srimad Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, as understood and as presented by the bona fide system of disciplic succession, meaning that we all hear from Srila Prabhupada about Krishna, and we are given entrance into this mystery by dint of his purity. So Krishna has all types of energies, and one of those energies is all-pervasive here, which is this material energy. He is personally residing in the supreme abode, Goloka Vrindavan, which is the topmost planet. But he's expanded himself into unlimited plenary or full expansions, which are called Vishnu expansions, or they're Krishna himself, but exhibiting a different set of qualities. It's stated in the Nectar of Devotion that Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, exhibits 64 specific qualities. And each one of those is explained with scriptural evidence in the Nectar of Devotion, and it's really amazing. Then, Krishna is the only person that exhibits 4 of those qualities. So then there's another set, which are the Vishnu Tattva, or his plenary expansions, which exhibit 60 of the 64 qualities. And then the Jivas, well actually I think that Lord Shiva is also there. He also exhibits a certain number of those qualities. And then there's the Jivas, which is our, or there's the, the Jiva Tattvas, the minute spiritual sparks, which we exhibit up to 70, I think it's 78% of the qualities that Krishna exhibits in our pure state, in minute quantity, which is important. Because we may exhibit some of those, we may exhibit up to 78% of those same qualities that are found within Krishna, the Supreme Person, because we are also spiritual in quality. Therefore, we have a certain number of his qualities, but we only exhibit those qualities in a minute quantity. So the Lord has expanded himself into all these energies, like all these different expansions, like Vishnu forms in all the spiritual planets themselves, all the variety in the spiritual world. Like if you look at the paintings and you look at the altar, it's filled with variety. All that is actually the spiritual, variegatedness, which is found in Krishna's abode. When we look at these paintings, we see that there are plants and there's trees and there's human-like persons, and there's animal-like persons, and there's, I should say, tree-like persons, and there's grass-like persons, and there's, water-like persons, and cloud-like persons. Does that make sense? The variegatedness that are exhibited in this world is just a perverted reflection of the variegatedness which is found in the spiritual world, where everything is is actually a person. They're all personas. And they're all interested in pure devotional service to Krishna. So, those are some points. And we can only enter into that supreme abode where the Lord is actually residing personally by bhakti or devotional service. And yeah, it's amazing, this wonderful world, It's really amazing, especially when, there's some nice arrangements for pleasant, atmosphere and things like that. Then we really feel like, wow, it's really cool. This world is really nice. And we can get fooled in such a way that, yeah, I'll just stay here. It's great, But what we should be interested is say, who has made this so nice? Just like any artist, there was somebody I used to listen to, and one of his big points was that he would discuss how to be an artist. So he was an artist himself, and he will discuss how to be an artist. And one thing that he mentioned, was that if you try to understand the artist, then you can steal something from the artist and incorporate that into your own art. So we understand such concepts are tinged with envy and self-interest in the material world. But the essence is sort of nice, that I should try to understand the person behind the art. Then I will get some real benefit out of such, study, such appreciation. So when we see this world, we should see, who is the supreme artist that has made such a wonderful place? And what is his personal habits? What are his personal activities? Like that. Those are some things.
Impersonalists, they try to speculate, to figure out who that person is or what he's like, and they generally come up with an impersonal, because they think that if you have some form, it must be material. If you have some personality, it must be material. They only have experience with material, and they're only speculating, so they can't go beyond that. That's not the process. The process is to hear from higher authorities. And we have the Guru Parampara, and we have the Shastras, and we have sadhus. So everything is there. One can achieve it from the higher authorities. It's called the descending process of knowledge, rather than the ascending process of empiric speculation. That will always remain imperfect. It's like if we hear a sound coming from above and we try to speculate what the sound was caused by, we can go on guessing and we won't be sure. But if someone's there and he said, I dropped my hammer and hope I didn't disturb the class, and So better to hear from someone who is in the knowledge about God, because we can't speculate what he looks like. That speculation doesn't mean he's actually like that. He's as he is. So we should hear how he is, and then he reveals himself also. When one tries to understand through the proper channel, Tesham Satatayuktanam Bhajatam Priti Purvakam Tadami Buddhiyogam Tam Yena Mamupayantite. Then Krishna reveals himself. He helps the devotee have transcendental knowledge to understand him and to come to him. It's a science. and the science is Bhakti Yoga, pure devotional service. So we're trying to apply that, and we see it's working all over the world. People are taking to it. Even though their background may have been different, they may not have any knowledge of Vedic culture, no Vedic principles, but still, because it's universal, it's for everyone. Everyone can take to it. Even a simple person or a person who's not cultured. Because the soul goes right to the soul. And even living beings in other types of bodies can make benefit by hearing the vibration and chanting of the holy names and taking prasadam.
Yes. I've been thinking about this point about how this is for everyone in this in this age. The fearless method for advancement is the chanting of the Lord's holy names, and we can support that practice with other engagements for the tongue, like taking prasadam, and actually people are unaware that because you have to eat something else, you have to eat somebody else actually, or you have to kill somebody to eat. It has to be some type of plants, or it has to be some type of like that. And every time you want to cook, then you have to light a fire and you kill so many entities. And so it's precarious in this material world. Just as the material energy is all, we're ensconced in material energy. Everywhere we look, there's matter, right? But also there's spirit everywhere too. The soul is all pervasive, meaning that there are living entities everywhere. Even in the space of 1 millimeter, tiny little, there are countless germs. And actually there's a cool verse which states that from Indra, who's the king of heaven, down to what's called the Indra Gopa germ, which is a very small germ, all these people, they're having to undergo the process of birth and death, right? But a fortunate soul, he gets contact with this movement or with the pure devotee by the mercy of Guru and Krishna. Then he gets this process, and we just have to apply it, and we're happily engaged, as was mentioned in the 9th chapter. We're happily engaged in distributing this knowledge as a service to Krishna. That Krishna considers it a great service to distribute this knowledge. So we as practitioners, even though we are struggling to know Krishna ourselves and to serve Him and be fully dedicated to Him, still, as a service to Him and for our own purification, we try to distribute this knowledge and share it, because we know that the soul is not American, Hindu, Christian, or XYZ, whatever it may be. The soul is an eternal part and parcel of Krishna. And we understand that, if I give this pure message as shared and as realized by Srila Prabhupada to somebody, then they may just take it and go back to the spiritual world. Or they may become a spiritual leader who's ready to help countless persons, And we should be interested to offer to Srila Prabhupada, such sincere souls. That here's somebody who really wants God. They've been searching for happiness here, and by contact with your instructions and your movement, they've taken to the process. So, like that. And we can get really blissful from that. And also, we need the philosophy ourselves. So we have to keep hearing, because purity is the force. And we have to keep practicing, because purity is the force. So let's read another verse. And 23. Okay, these are some interesting points here. Chapter 8, text 23. O best of the Bhagavatas, I shall now explain to you the different times at which, passing away from this world, one does or does not come back. Purport. The unalloyed devotees of the Supreme Lord, who are totally surrendered souls, do not care when they leave their bodies, or by what method. They leave everything in Krishna's hands, and so easily and happily return to Godhead. But those who are not unalloyed devotees, and who depend instead on such methods of spiritual realization as karma yoga, jnana yoga, hatha yoga, etc., must leave the body at a suitable time, and thereby be assured whether or not they will return to the world of birth and death. If the yogi is perfect, he can select the time and place for leaving this material world. But if he is not so perfect, then he has to leave at nature's will. The most suitable time to leave the body and not return is being explained by the Lord in these verses. According to Acharya Baladev Vidyabhushana, the Sanskrit word kala used herein refers to the presiding deity of time. So, the pure devotee isn't really kind of trying to make a special arrangement. There's this analogy which is given that the devotee who's fully surrendered to the Lord and absorbed and dedicated to the Lord's service leaves the body, which is a very precarious situation, just as a kitten is carried in the mouth of her, the mother cat. So for the kitten, it's a safe place, the mouth of the cat. Just like the devotee, that death, though normally it will be a scary place, just like the mouth of a cat is a scary place for a rat. Right? So normally death is like that, and it's precarious, and it's difficult to navigate that moment, which is crucial for our destination going forward. But the devotee, he fully depends on the Lord. And because of that full dependence, just as Maturnath was stating earlier today, the full dependence, we have to declare our dependence, declaration of dependence on Krishna. And we live that way. Theoretically, we can know, yes, in God we trust. Right? Theoretically, right? But no, we have to also have realization. Jnanam vijnanam. We have to have realization to enact on it. So that means to always be engaged in the Lord's service. Because the Lord has asked us to serve Him all the time, always think of Him. So then if we always make sure to arrange our life in such a way that we can always serve Him and remember Him, that's called depending on Him. Because He asks us to do that. Just like He says, He's there for us. He's ready to help us. He's there for us in the form of His instructions. And He's given, please be engaged all the time in this process. Always think of me, become my devotee, offer obeisances to me. Like that. So if we follow that, then we are depending on Him. We're putting our faith in Him. We are taking shelter in Him. Instead of taking shelter of so many other instructions from persons who are speculating at the truth, right? Or at the right way to live and all that, we depend on Krishna. We always have to depend on somebody, right? But Krishna is the infallible person. This knowledge that He gives is apaurushaya. which means it's superhuman knowledge. It's not tinged by any faults. So we should take shelter of this, depend on this knowledge, act in that way. Then death is a very smooth transition. And we can be sure to be carried to safety, just as a kitten is carried in the mouth of the loving mother. Okay, devotees? Were there some comments? Okay, Jagannath, Prabhu. Then Bhakti Damodar.
So I'm wondering why Krishna doesn't give us all power. You know, usually when you see a father, he wants to give everything to his child. So I'm just wondering why this isn't so in our position. I'm wondering why this isn't so in our position.
Well, the Lord is giving us a lot. He's giving us wonderful facilities to serve Him, and as we take advantage of those, He'll give us more. You know, He'll give us more. And the devotee isn't interested in accumulating anything, prestige, fame, money, power, whatever it may be, powers, ability, skills, anything, knowledge. He's not interested in acquiring anything for his own self-aggrandizement, but rather for the service of the Lord. He may acquire acquire different things. But we understand who's giving. Krishna's giving. You know? And actually Prabhupada mentions this is really like pivotal or fundamental to Krishna consciousness, that whatever we have doesn't matter. If I know it's all Krishna's and I use it only for His service, that's Krishna consciousness. So we can have little and use all of it for Krishna and be perfect. Or we can have a lot and use all of it for Krishna and be perfect. And whatever we have, we use it. So different birds fly at different points in the sky, you know, and different devotees have different skills and abilities. But as long as we're fully doing the best we can, then that'll be good for us. Do you have the time, Prabhu? Okay. Was it? On this, one other thing on this Jagannath was that Krishna doesn't necessarily want to give so much that we become distracted. So when we're ready to handle, then He may give. But He knows actually, just like Sri Dhamma, right? No, Sudama, right? He was asked by his wife to go see Krishna, who was his childhood classmate. And he was embarrassed, you know, he didn't want to go to ask Krishna for something. And he thought, I'll go there, but I won't ask him for anything. His wife wanted Sudama to ask Krishna for wealth. And when Sudama left Krishna's palace, he remembered that, yeah, actually I didn't ask, which was why I came. And he says Krishna was so kind, you know, that you know, he didn't give me these things because he knew that I will be distracted. But then Sudama goes home and he's basically welcomed by, you know, his wife, who's very beautifully dressed and ornamented, and a palace and servants and all this stuff. And actually, the acharyas, they comment that actually he may have been attached to renunciation. But the Lord wanted to show that my pure devotee serves me in any circumstance. So whether he was avoiding all accumulation of material prosperities and things like that for the service of the Lord, so too he also had amazing wealth simply for the service of the Lord. But in our case, we understand I'm in a dangerous position. If I get money and power, it'll be bad. Right? So, we're lucky because in one sense we're just humble servants, just menial servants, spiritual, children, and we just give everything to our spiritual grandfather, Srila Prabhupada, and he takes care of everything. Those are some things. Bhakti Damodar.
Hare Krishna. Okay, Prabhu, I just had a question. The last sentence of this last purport that you read. According to Acharya Baladev Vidyabhushana, the Sanskrit word kala used herein refers to the presiding deity of time. Do you know anything about that, or like that sentence? Is that just anything to do with that? Because I'm not sure I understand the significance of that. Yeah.
Well, time is slowly taking away, the life of every person. And so later on in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that he is time I am, destroyer of worlds. So by his influence as all-pervading, or his influence as eternal time, which is deteriorating everything in the material world, he destroys, So we're facing that destruction at the time of death. So that's past that, I can't say.
I just wasn't sure because to me it kind of, the verse seems like Krishna is talking about the different times at which passing away from this world, the one does not come back. So to me that sounds like he's saying like, the positioning is with the moon and the sun, that it's auspicious for a yogi to pass during this time, and it's not auspicious for someone to pass during this time. But then Acharya Baladev Vidyabhushana says that the word kala in this verse is referring to the presiding deity of time. I don't know. I just didn't understand.
Well, let's look it up. What time is it?
It's 8:18.
Okay, 2 minutes, 1 minute. So go to the database and search that presiding deity of time. Let's see what we get, and we'll just read one of those and then.
Jai.
Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama. Presiding deity of time. We're just trying to understand what that may mean. We may not be able to draw the connection with this verse, but we could learn more about what that is.
Yeah. You may have to do quotes.
Yeah, there's different techniques to get the searching engine to work.
It's just coming up with each individual word in the search, so it's going to take too long.
There may be a like advanced search or something like that. Otherwise, you can look up Kala, or you can click on it. There may be a hyperlink there, and you can click on that Sanskrit word, and then all those will come up. Well, read us something. Now that we've gotten there, read us one of these. You have something, Rishi? Okay. Let's. Well.
It's not.
If you think it'll help us understand something more about time. Okay, let's hear it.
Yakchakshur esha savita sakala grahanam rajasamasta suramurtirashesha teja yasyagya pramati sambrita kala chakro govindam adi purusham tamaham bhajami. The word in this is Kala Chakra, which means the wheel of time, and the translation is the sun who is the king of all the planets, full of infinite effulgence. The image of the good soul is as the eye of this world. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, in pursuance of whose order the sun performs his journey, mounting the wheel of time.
Thank you. Okay, Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees.